Welcome to Beach Jam Media, your resource-driven oasis with your host, Jennifer Corbin-Carson. Join us each week as we dive into hot topics and essential materials for individuals and businesses. We invite you to get your feet wet and explore life's offerings. From insightful discussions to practical advice, we're here to navigate the tides of change together. Come join us for Beach Jam Media, where knowledge flows endlessly and where the currents of insight never stop. So come on, let's get our feet wet and explore what's waiting for us on the beach.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here with us. I am your host and fellow veteran, Jennifer Corbin-Carson. Today, I am bringing you more resources directly from the VA. So grab your coffee or your favorite morning drink, and let's see what the tides have rolled in for us today. So we'll be right back after this brief message.
Beach Jam Media is your resource-driven oasis, hosted by Jennifer Corbin-Carson. Each week, we dive into hot topics and essential resources for individuals, businesses, veterans, and their families. Join us for insightful discussions and practical advice as we navigate the tides of change together. At Beach Jam Media, knowledge flows endlessly and insights never stop. Contact us to be a part of our show at our email address, beachjammedia@gmail.com.
You've been watching Beach Jam Media with Jennifer Corbin-Carson. We invite you to jump back in and keep your feet wet with us as we continue to be your guide through the waves of change. Now let's dive back into the show.
Good morning. Good morning. Like I said earlier, thank you for being here. I appreciate you joining us today. If you are on the replay, just tag replay in the comments below. But we have a special guest today, as always. Our guests are always special. Dr. Frank Jordan from the Dublin VA. He's the communications director. And good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jennifer. Glad to be here.
Good. Glad to have you. Thanks for coming on. We've been talking and teaming up to get resources out to veterans. And so it's nice to put a face to the name, Frank.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, we really appreciate you including us. We try not, part of my job as communications director is to be very creative and go out there searching for places we can get the word out about VA programs and services. So anytime someone's willing to do that, I consider it a patriotic act, Jennifer, I'll be honest with you. When you give us some time that we can share information that's going to help our veterans and their families and honor their service, we're really appreciative of it. So Beach Jam, you've been doing a great job. We appreciate it. So kudos to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I just, if we can help veterans, that's the whole deal, right? Is to help veterans and get those resources out to them. And more exciting news is coming to the masses, to the veterans. Hopefully we can announce that next month, but you got to stay tuned to get the news. So Frank, without further delay, we are going to be talking about the PACT Act today and what that means for veterans and some definitions. But I think the biggest thing is that they added, 20 plus presumptive illnesses to the list of people that were in Afghanistan, Bahrain, Iraq, Iran, the pretty much the Middle East. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the PACT Act and what it means for veterans?
Yeah, Jennifer. So the PACT Act is named after Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, who was a combat medic. And the idea is that for decades, one of the things in healthcare that kind of got not given its due attention was toxic exposures. And this really, the guys from Vietnam were complaining about Agent Orange for the longest time, of course. But when they started looking into that, we realized there are so many other toxic exposures. And it's even been estimated that upwards of almost 80% of veterans who had military service were exposed to toxic substances at some point. So we were glad to see many years ago they finally made Agent Orange a presumptive for the Vietnam guys that have been in country. So that means a presumptive just means that if you were there at a certain time and exposed, boom, we assume you're going to have some kind of problems. Doesn't mean you actually will. Now, that's very important that veterans understand that. Well, we presume it because we want to go ahead and get you registered so that when the time comes, if you need our help, you're not going to have to go through a bunch of paperwork. It's already in place. So that's what's great about the PACT Act. The PACT Act finally is the biggest expansion of benefits for veterans since the GI Bill. We were thrilled to see it in VA because now it kind of took some of the bureaucratic shackles off of us so that we could address some of these things that our veterans were concerned about. It really came to the fore, I think, because of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, where our folks were exposed to burn pits and some other stuff. And we knew they had issues, so we were quick to get on that. But then we started going back and realizing just how many veterans were exposed. And it turns out what's great about the PACT Act and why I'm really pushing it to my veterans is you don't know where you got exposed. I don't want them to think in terms of combat. Combat, you probably were exposed to some stuff. But it turns out even in training, I was in the Navy for 7 years, active and 3 years reserve. And it turns out I did a lot of firefighting training. And it turns out some of those chemicals we use for foam and that kind of stuff, just the smoke we inhale when we're doing our live training, turns out that can cause a lot of problems. And I myself am having some asthma issues now that I just can't figure out any other way how it might have happened. So the PACT Act has given an opportunity to a lot of veterans, and that's why we're encouraging. Honestly, I tell them, don't even think about it, Jennifer. Just drop that initial claim so you can get that exam and let's check it out. And it takes about 10 minutes online. You just go to www.va.gov/PACT, PACT, and in 10 minutes or less, you can get that initial claim, and then the VA will do a follow-up claim with you. And the cool thing is you don't have to have benefits assigned to get that started. You can just drop that claim on the internet or come to one of our many events. We're having all kinds of cool PACT Act town halls and other events, and we're even bringing our friends from the Veterans Benefits Administration, the VBA, in on a regular basis. In fact, they'll be here on the 20th at our medical center. They're coming once a month. But we'll help you. It's easy stuff to do, and we invite the veterans to go ahead and file now so they don't have to deal with the paperwork if they have an issue.
Right. Even that intent, file that intent to file, and then, you have up to a year to gather all your information. And, even if it's just for one presumptive issue that you're having, get your name in the system and get it rolling. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the process, and then you can file for whatever you need to file later. And that's the whole reason why I started this, was because people don't know the process. And if I had problems going through the process, then, let's get it out there to people and say, okay, this is how you do it, and this is what to expect. Expectation management, right? That's a big thing when you do the PACT Act, especially last year, because at one point I read that the VA was expecting 400,000 or more new intent to files, or at least filing, for disability with the VA. So, that was a huge, I'm sure it was a huge burden on the system, but, this was put into place for our veterans and for those presumptive conditions, if you already have, but if you served in the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, or other combat zone after 9/11, or you were deployed in support of the global war on terror, or you were exposed to toxins or other hazard during military service at home or abroad. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you went overseas to the Middle East.
Right.
You could have been exposed to something here. So don't think that you have to read the explanation of where you were at, or where the help me out, Frank, the places.
Yeah, combat zones, where you might have got service connected, that kind of stuff. But right. Yeah, you're exactly right, Jennifer. And that's why I tell people, I really tell them, I'm a student of neurobiology, neuropsychology, et cetera, and I can tell you, our brains don't like to think too much. That's just how we are as human beings. We don't like to use our brain any more than we have to, and there's an evolutionary reason for that. It's just more efficient for us. But that's why I tell them in this case, you know what? Don't think too much. Drop that intent to file. It's so inclusive that I find that most veterans are probably going to have something that may connect them. So I say, do this: file the intent and let a VBA professional who does this every day talk to you and walk you through it. Why strain yourself? It's so. I was just reading. I've read this material 100 times, and I was reading it again this morning. And every time I look at it, there's something new in there. I was like, wow. And again, it's not combat zone. It covers the combat guys, but it could be that you were in a training somewhere, and
Right.
it could be you could have been briefly exposed. I was in an F-14 squadron in the Navy, and then at a Naval Air Station, Pensacola, and we were constantly exposed to jet AP5 fuel fumes and other stuff. But just in our training, same thing. So I say don't think too hard about it. Just drop that intent to file and let the VBA folks help walk you through it. And yeah, that's one of the things that frustrates our veterans too, is the process. And what I try to remind them is that we have, for example, when I started in VA 2003, we were in the process of going from serving less than 2 million veterans, and then 9/11 happened and all the wars, and we ended up, now it's about 8 million veterans. So our system's still trying to catch up with that influx. And so it takes a while, but that's exactly why I tell the veterans, don't wait, do it now. I was really surprised. I learned a lot of things working for the VA. And one of them was, before I went to the VA, I tell people before I started working here, I couldn't even spell VA and didn't know what it was about. But when I started working here, I learned so much. And one of those things is, I kind of thought, like I think most people think, that most veterans get out of service and they're fine and there's no problem. So maybe there's a small percentage of folks that have issues. Well, it turns out most veterans, if you serve for any length of time, really, you're going to have issues of some kind. Now, whether they're debilitating or something that you need medical help at, that's an open question. But I find more and more that most veterans, when I got out, I was 25 years old, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and didn't think anything was wrong with me. And now that I'm 59, I'm finding all these things that, I remember that happened. And yeah, my knees are bad. And yeah, my back's bad. And yeah, this happened. Yeah, we wore cheap tennis shoes and basic training, and I got shin splints and all kinds of stuff, plantar fasciitis. And so when you get a little older, you realize you're not 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and don't wait. Like right now, I'm going to admit I'm catching up. We had, when I was in the military, we still had this tough guy, He-Man attitude about stuff, this real hyper masculine attitude. And I'm glad to see that the military services are getting away from that silliness and realizing that you can be a tough warrior for your nation and still understand that you need help. And it's ironic, because that's one of the things the military actually teaches you from day one, and even did when I was in, the sense of camaraderie. And yeah, you need help and you got buddies there to help you. Well, guess what? That extends to the VA too, and it extends to veterans service organizations and podcasts like yours to help get the word out. So be humble and go ahead and drop that intent to file. And like I said, we hope you never need it. We hope you never have to come to the VA for health care, but we want you to be ready with the paperwork when you do. One of the things I was really kind of surprised by, or almost shocked in a lot of cases early in my career with VA, was how many World War II and Korean War veterans and Vietnam guys I would meet who had never been to the VA, and then now they're elderly and they need us, and now they're trying to negotiate all that paperwork. So I tell these folks, no, do it now. The good news is the VA and the military services are working very closely together to orient the folks who are getting out to what they can expect, and go ahead and they tell them, hey, go ahead and get in touch with the VA. They actually offer orientations and events that they can do that. And we have a group here called the Military to VA Transition Service. And that's social workers who literally their whole job is to help our veterans negotiate the VA, help them not only once they get in, but if they're trying to get in, we help them with the VBA and stuff like that. So I've been really pleased. In 20 years, I've seen amazing growth in the VA and how we do things. And it's not perfect, but it never will be, because it's a bureaucracy and it takes time. And taxpayers expect us to safeguard their tax dollars and use them the way that we were told to use them. So unfortunately, that means paperwork sometimes. But what we're trying to emphasize to our folks here is never let the paperwork, never let the process get in the way of service excellence. My personal mantra for working in the VA is that I want us to provide the highest quality health care possible in an environment of dignity and respect that honors veteran service at all times. That's it. Just like if you've ever gone to Mayo Clinic, they do a brilliant job of this. And I want the veteran to come in and get that magical experience, to know they're cared for, know we're in a relationship with them. It's not just discrete episodes of care. When you come to the VA, you're entering into a relationship with us, and we're going to be with you even after you pass. We have a group here called the Honors Escort Group, and once one of our veterans passes here in the medical center, we actually do a very ceremonious escort of them when they leave the building. So we want a relationship with our veterans, and that means whole health is another thing. And I get a little off topic here that you wanted to hear about, but whole health is the idea that it's not just acute episodes of care. It's preventative and complementary medicine, where we're trying to keep you healthy so you don't have to come in for that doctor's appointment as often, that kind of stuff. So I've been really impressed with how the VA's developed, and that's why now I'm working hard to get my own health care here, because I see it every day, and it's almost like being in a candy shop and I don't get to eat the chocolate, but I'm gonna get that claim filed. I'm gonna eat the chocolate.
Well, go to one of your own events. I mean, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I actually filed my PAC Act intent. I'll tell you, I was shocked because I realized I had this asthma issue coming up years ago, and I couldn't figure out what in the world that could cause that. And the only thing I could come up with in my history was, like, we did a lot of firefighting training in the Navy, obviously, because they're and I'm pleased to say they do a great job at this now, preventing this stuff. But we had to use actual foam. We would go in buildings with what we called OBA's, oxygen breathing apparatus, that we would actually go in buildings with live smoke and that kind of stuff. And we had to do this periodically. And I'm thinking, and plus then, and most people in basic, and you probably remember this, went through the tear gas training, where you had, which now, in retrospect, it seems kind of humorous, but at the time it wasn't. And certainly it's not when you think about it, because the guys of the reaction was, but watching, yeah, it was funny. I mean, it really was, because we were told, and for those who don't know, who might be watching the podcast, we would go into a tear gas chamber. And the idea was they wanted us to see that our masks that we would wear to prevent the tear gas infiltration actually worked. So we would put on the mask, go in the chamber, and then we'd be directed to take it off. Well, for the first few seconds, you don't feel anything, and you think you got it beat, and they've oversold it. And then all of a sudden it hits you like, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm dying here. And then, of course, everybody runs out, and you're trying desperately to get water on your face and stuff. But anyway, so it turns out even that could cause you some issues, depending on your respiratory status and that kind of thing. So to me, it just doesn't make sense to speculate. It makes more sense for a veteran to just drop that intent to file, go ahead and end up having that conversation with a VBA person and let the doctor take a look and see what's going on, because we don't want you to miss benefits you earn. That's the whole thing for us at the VA. Most people in VA share one mentality, and that is, to us, a veteran not getting the benefits and the service they deserve is like somebody going to work and not clocking in for the first hour and just not worrying, leaving money on the ground. It doesn't make any sense. You served, You did what your country asked you to do. One thing I tell people, one thing veterans all have in common is we all held up our hand and said, I will, and I'll defend my nation. And wherever you did that, it's not relevant. You did it. And you don't know where you'll end up. And so we want you to come get the benefits you deserve.
Absolutely. And those presumptive conditions mean that you don't have to tie them to your service, your time in service.
That's right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, if you have asthma, and like Dr. Jordan was saying, if you have asthma, you don't necessarily have to say, oh, I got it from this or I got it from that. So some of the conditions that they added was, I think that's my watch making that noise.
I didn't hear you.
But but some of the conditions that they put, the presumptive conditions, some of those that they put in there, asthma that was diagnosed after service, chronic bronchitis, chronic sinusitis, chronic rhinitis. I mean, those are all inflammation of your sinuses, what you use to breathe, all these things that you were exposed to, right? Emphysema, lung disease, pleuritis, COPD. I mean, you see that on
Mhm.
commercials all the time now. But,
That's right.
so even if in I never say this word, sarcoidosis.
Sarcoidosis. Hmm.
Yes,
Sarcoidosis,
that's a
yeah.
yeah, it's a skin condition. So you're breathing it in, but your skin is also breathing it in, right? So, like he's,
Jennifer, it can get in your lungs. It can get in your lungs and
yeah.
cause nodules. The comedian Bernie Mac. Some people may remember
Mhm.
Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac died of sarcoidosis eventually.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so it's not a skin condition.
Yeah, and it can get it. It starts out as a
Oh,
skin condition typically. That's how it presents, but it can get in your lungs and other organs. So yeah.
wow.
So you
Oh, I
don't know.
didn't
You
know
don't
that.
know where these things are going to end up. You don't know what you're
No,
going to end up dealing with. And the thing is to file now and get connected and let's deal with it. Let's, because we can
right?
prevent a lot of this stuff. And you actually
Absolutely.
just helped me, Jennifer, because I had forgotten about my sinusitis that I've been suffering with since I got out of the
Mm,
military. And it's amazing. I never had issues. I never had issues with that kind of stuff. And it's funny, the first time I flew was when I was going to boot camp or basic training. And I
yeah.
felt this huge pressure on my left sinus. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, honestly, I can only compare it to what scuba divers must talk about when they have an issue. But it was like my left side of my head was going to cave in, and it's so bad. All of a sudden, the pressure just released, and you could hear it. And the guy sitting next to me said, "Man, what was that?" And I said, "I don't know. It's something through my
Oh,
nose." Didn't think anything about it. Got in boot camp, and I had hemiplegia on the left side of my face during boot camp. It was just my whole face left side of my face went numb. And now I'm 18 years old. I'm perfectly healthy. And I never had another incident. But after that, it was sinus issues constantly on the left side of my face. So whether or not that's related to the service, it certainly seems like a smoking gun. So that's what I'm going to do. You just reminded me of that, so I needed to put that on my claim. So I'm going to put it on there and let them take a look
absolutely.
and let's see what they're doing. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
if it's not, it's
absolutely.
not. But it's worth looking. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And that's what I tell people is I think on one of the podcasts I said, make a list of all of
Right.
your conditions and your symptoms and whatever else, go through. Now everything is on an app, right? You can log into your
Right.
portals, your doctor's portals, and you can get your health summaries, right? So
Mhm.
get those health summaries and go through each one and make a list of all of your conditions and
Mhm.
put that on there. Put
That's
it
right.
on your filing, even if it's you think it's connected or not. Put it all on
That's
there
right.
and let the VA decide. You give them
Mhm.
all the evidence and all the information and let the VA decide what your rating will be. And you
Right.
were talking
Absolutely.
earlier about your VA events. And, so you had one in Gray, Georgia. And
Mhm.
my husband and I went to it. And, I
Oh,
keep
good.
telling
Good.
him, he's kind of like you, where he, didn't file. And I kept bugging him
Right.
about it. And so we went to the event and um, they had the VA had the veterans benefit, what are they called, the
Veterans
VBO,
Benefits Administration, VBA. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
VBA. And
They're in all of our PACT events where they've been great about it. And they're not to cut you out, Jennifer, but they've just been so wonderful because these folks I feel sorry for them. Honestly, they're just so overworked. They're trying desperately and they're really dedicated people. I've met
mhm,
them. They come to all of our events. They usually come in force. They're coming to our medical center once a month just to hold an open clinic for the veterans. They're doing virtual stuff. I was just helping them advertise one of those this morning. So these are really dedicated folks, but their job requires by law that they check off the right things and make sure they're doing it legally. And they have to. I mean, otherwise they could be in serious trouble, and that's fine. These are our tax dollars that need to be tended to. And so, but they're very dedicated folks. I'm very surprised. I've never talked to a VBA representative who didn't want the veteran to get what they wanted. So yeah, they've been at all of our events. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a shameless plug in. for our Facebook page. Go to Facebook, Dublin VA Medical Center, Dublin VA Medical Center. And I'll tell you why. It's the easiest way I have to communicate with my veterans and their families and anybody interested in what's going on in VA. You don't have to be a veteran. You can just be idly curious. I don't care. Go to Dublin VA Medical Center, like our page, and then share that stuff. And I say that because just like the service you're providing here today, Jennifer, that Facebook page, a person can share that information themselves. And I tell them, you're doing a patriotic act when you get on our Facebook page and share what you see, because there's the VA and Congress is supporting us and providing so many programs and services these days. It's just an embarrassment of riches. It can be so hard to keep up with. Well, that's okay. We put the latest and greatest on there almost immediately, literally every day. When I'm sitting at home on weekends at night and just watching TV with my family, I check for the latest from VA to put on our Facebook page. I want that information out there. And then when it comes to our local events like PACT Act or any event we have, bingo, whatever, we do line dancing here as part of our whole health, but we put all that out there. So I'm really encouraging your watchers to go to our Dublin VA Medical Center page on Facebook, like it, and then share the info. And it doesn't matter if you're in California. I don't care. We're going to put some of the same stuff out. VBA is one big organization, so you can see the local stuff or you can get the latest national program. So I encourage people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If you see it on the Dublin VA Facebook page and you want your local VA to try to do something like that, contact your local VA and ask them.
That's
Be
right.
that advocate for yourself and other veterans. And that's what we try to do here as well. So, Dr. Frank Jordan, thank you so much for being with us today. We didn't get nearly into the PACT Act as much as we both wanted to, but that's for another episode. So, but thank you so much for being with us.
Jen, there's just so much to talk about the PACT Act, and that's why we've got people here who are ready to talk about it. You can, like I said, I put a lot of that stuff on the Facebook page, so it's easy to just check it out. But no, we want to thank you for having us on. We're really thrilled when we get an opportunity for people like you to talk about this stuff, because we want to reach as many veterans as possible. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's our goal too. Let's get it out to the veterans and get them the help that they need. So, anyways, we will probably be talking with you or other or other people from the Dublin VA soon. So thanks again. And so we want to go to va.gov and just search for PACT Act.
It's actually easy, Jen. It's www.va.gov/PACT, PACT, and you're just going to get a ton of great information. But I don't want our veterans to be overwhelmed. Just go ahead, and there's a link there for that initial intent to file claim. Just drop that claim. Takes about 5, maybe 10 minutes. Boom, and then someone will get in touch with you.
There you go. And then if you're not sure, go to one of the events that your local VA is having, and talk to a VBA. And they will help you with your claim. So
that's right.
Dr. Jordan, thanks again, and we will be talking soon.
All right.
So if you guys want to get in touch with us, go to beachjammedia@gmail.com. And here is our swag button or QR code. But thanks again for joining us. And if you have any ideas for future podcasts that you want to get out there, email us and let us know what you're thinking. And if you are watching us on YouTube, smash that button for the subscribe, and you will get updates on our podcast. So thanks again for being here, and we will see you next week at the beach.
In the calm of early morning, when the day begins anew, we pause to reflect. May holds a special significance beyond just being another month. It is time for solemn remembrance, gratitude, and honoring those who've made tremendous sacrifice for our freedom. To all who served in the military, across all branches, and the National Guard, to the veterans and to the families who support them through thick and thin. We express our heartfelt thanks. Your courage, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication inspired us deeply. As we commemorate Military Appreciation Month, we recognize the importance of standing by our newest recruits. Those brave individuals venturing into an unknown, responding to duties called with determination, deserve our utmost respect and guidance. Equally important is our commitment to support those actively serving in the Air Force, Coast Guard, Army, Navy, Marines, Space Force, and National Guard. Whether deployed abroad or stationed at home, they carry out their duties with honor and integrity. It is our responsibility to ensure they have the resources, care, and unwavering support necessary to fulfill their missions. So, as we observe Military Appreciation Month, let's unite in gratitude and solidarity. Let's honor the past, support the present, and inspire the future. To all who serve, have served, and those who stand beside them, we extend our deepest appreciation. Happy Military Appreciation Month.
Thank you for tuning in to Beach Jam Media with your host, Jennifer Corbin-Carson. We hope today's dive into hot topics and valuable resources left you feeling refreshed and inspired. Our mission is to keep you informed and engaged as we ride the waves of what washes up in life together. Until next time, stay curious, keep the conversation flowing, ask questions, and let the glisten of the shoreline guide your journey. Goodbye.